So now let's actually implement the recipe page. So we need a new route. So this is going to be /recipe / and then the recipe ID. So again, we're going to create a regular expression which will be picked up by our request handler. And we do this by opening a angle bracket and saying recipe _ ID, for example. This is just the name I'm going to give it. Is going to be any number from 0 to 9 and at least one character or one of those numbers, okay? And I'm going to close my angle bracket. And the path to the request handler will be app.recipe.recipe page, okay? So now we need to go to app and create the recipe file. So new Python file, recipe. And as the same as usual, we will do from framework.requestHandler import yum search request handler. Class recipe page extends off of the yum search request handler. Def get, because it's going to be a get request. And now actually inside of this def get, we need to pass in we need to pick up the recipe ID, okay? Now, why do we put this here in this case and not say, for example, recipe _ ID is equal to self request.get recipe ID, okay? Why don't we do this instead of this? Okay, if we leave this out, our application will break. And why is this? Well, inside of our router, we are already telling this request handler that it needs to expect a recipe ID parameter. So if it's expecting this and we don't declare it there, well, it will break, okay? And why is it different to actually getting it through the self request get method? Well, it's because our recipe ID is coming in through our URL instead of the headers or the body of our get request. So in this case, it would be the header of our get request. So it's not there, so there's no sense in doing this, right? In the other cases, we were sending parameters in the headers of our requests, but now we're not sending anything, we're sending it in the URL. So that's the difference. And whenever we're sending it in the URL, we need to pick it up using or declaring the variable inside of the function to actually pick it up there, okay? Okay. So the first thing we need to do is we actually need to get the recipe. So for that, we need to import from models.recipes, import recipes, okay? So now we can say recipe is equal to recipes.getById, okay? And getById again is a method that's already written in the NDB library, so we don't need to write it. And we need to pass in the recipe ID as a integer, okay? Because what happens whenever you pass something as a parameter in any kind of header or also in the URL, it's always going to be formatted as a string. And this getById method doesn't actually change the type of whatever you're passing in, so you need to make sure that it's a integer. So we're going to call the integer function and inside type in recipe ID. So now we know we're not going to run into problems. And now simply we can say template values, so template values is equal to a dictionary whose key is recipe, and the value is going to be the entire recipe object. Now we can simply say self.render recipe page. So this will be the folder that contains our recipe page. And then we're going to call the HTML also recipe page .html. And we need to pass in the template values, so double asterisks template values. Okay, so this is looking good.